Hi everyone, I'm Yunus, and in this video I will present our paper estimating material properties of interacting objects using Sum-GP-UCB. Physics simulators have become universal in robotics as they serve critical roles in planning and learning, and the utility of a simulator largely depends on how accurate it can predict real-world outcomes. However, even with the most complex simulations, inaccurate parameterizations prevent accurate predictions. In this case, the robots need to estimate the properties of objects from observations to simulate them accurately. In this paper, we ask the question of, can we estimate these object properties from interactions? Recently, Bayesian optimization has shown great progress to estimate properties of the simulations and objects. However, these works mostly focused on single object, single environment settings where the object is in isolation. In more natural settings, we observe that multiple objects can appear and interact with each other. That creates a bigger challenge since the outcome of the scene depends on the properties of all interacting objects. These objects might not always be the same, and they can appear in different environments. Because of that, in this work, we are focusing on estimating object properties in multi-object, multi-environment settings. A classical BO approach formulates this optimization problem using GP-UCB, but it has several challenges when it comes to multi-object, multi-environment settings. We assume that we are given an object parameter set and some real-world observations where these objects are interacting with each other. By using a real-to-sim pipeline, we create the corresponding environments of the observations in the simulators. The GP-UCB models all of the observations using a single Gaussian process, where it takes all of the object parameter set as the input and predicts the total reward coming from all simulations. As our reward function, we use a negative height map difference between simulation and real-world outcomes. And our aim is to find the optimal object parameters by maximizing the similarity reward between simulation and real world. The classical approach uses the UCB function to select and evaluate object parameters. Given the object parameter set, the classical approach runs all the simulations to observe the outcomes. And then it adds up all of the reward values into a shared reward function to update the GP. By repeating these steps, it optimizes the object parameters. However, this method has several problems. First, modeling all of the object parameters in a single GP creates a high-dimensional complexity as the number of objects increases. Second, using a shared reward function causes an information loss in the summation operation. This loss increases the number of optimization steps to reach a suitable parameter distribution. Third, this method requires running all of the simulators for reward calculation, which is highly redundant and time-consuming. To overcome these challenges, we propose Sum-GP-UCB, where we model each environment with separate Gaussian processes. Each GP takes the corresponding object parameters as input and predicts the individual reward function for its observation. In order to achieve global optimization, we formulate our acquisition function as the summation of all individual functions. At each optimization step, we select a parameter set using this acquisition function. One of the challenges of classical GP-UCB was that it had to run all of the simulations in order to include the reward function, which causes redundancy and increases the cost of the optimization. In order to reduce this cost further, we propose an informative simulation selection mechanism. For a given object parameter set, we first calculate the means and variances of each GPs. And then we only select the environment with the highest variance to optimize in that iteration. This mechanism significantly reduces the cost of running multiple simulations and provides a faster optimization by focusing on the most informative simulations at each iteration. To evaluate the parameters, we run the simulation and calculate the reward function. Finally, we update the GP with the calculated reward function and repeat these steps to optimize all of the object parameters simultaneously. For our experiment, we selected 6 objects, which 3 of them are rigid and 3 of them are deformable. We collected 8 real-world observations using these objects. Using our real-to-sim pipeline, we created the corresponding simulations of each observations. In our first experiment, we investigated how well our method scales with the number of observations in the system. We constructed 3 different subsets, including 3, 6, and 8 observations, and compared our approach with naive Bayesian optimization method we mentioned earlier. We analyzed the learning curves as a function of number of optimization iterations and number of simulation runs. For number of iteration results, we allowed the baseline method to run simulations in parallel, but we restrict our method to run only one simulation. The results show that our method achieves faster convergence, displays improved sample efficiency compared to the baseline, and utilizes a more structured and informative exploration of the different simulations. We also observed that our method scales better as the number of observations and the objects in the system increases. In the second experiment, we tested the scenario where the robot acquires additional observations as the optimization is running. During the optimization, we introduced new observations to the robot and compared the optimization performance with the case where our method had access to corresponding observations from the beginning. We start the optimization with 3 observations. After 50 iterations, we introduced 3 new observations. And after 100 iterations, we introduced 2 more observations. The results show that our method successfully handles the optimization of expanding observation set thanks to its partial reward calculation without needing to start the optimization from scratch. We see that our method switches focus to the new observations when they are introduced, yet still is able to return old ones if necessary. As a conclusion, our method formulation reduces the dimensional complexity of the Gaussian processes, prevents information loss on the reward function, and avoids redundant simulation runs with informative selection. Our experiments show that our method scales better as the number of observations increase, and our formulation allows us to acquire additional observations during the optimization without needing to start from scratch. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit our website and meet us in the poster session.